There's something off about this season, but I just can't figure out what it is yet. Supposedly, people are complaining about LP inflation since this season gives more points than you lose. In my experience, I'm at my peak rank and still making 25 LP a win and losing 15, putting me up 10 LP every game. So all I gotta do now is play enough games to reach my goal of beating League of Legends, a near impossible achievement that I wasn't able to complete last year. Only now, Riot introduced a mechanic to make up for getting autofilled, the Aegis of Valor, which gives double LP on a win and prevents any LP loss if you do lose while subbed in. It's a way to balance matchmaking without punishing the guinea pigs. Only now there's been talk that it's too easy to climb, and the ladder is going to need a reset if this continues. Not like the normal annual reset at the beginning of the season, but something far more drastic. What we need is something sinister, something far more evil and twisted than anybody could possibly dream. We've got to weed out all of the half-breeds like me, cull the mutts. How else can we guarantee the competitive integrity of our video game? Dude, I really just hope Riot doesn't even bother addressing this, because like what it comes down to is people not adapting to the new season. With the lane quest being added, the roles matter so much now. The ADC has enough gold to kill the top laner, who's overpowered and would naturally win in a direct confrontation. So what about mid lane? What do? All they get are tier 3 boots, which make them stronger, but nowhere near as strong as the other lanes. And they also get an empowered recall, so how much does that change their gameplay? Adding this new tool to their kit, what can they do? Because obviously the role isn't obsolete. Even though they don't have as much gold or experience as the other roles, they still have a very important job to play in this game. Even if sometimes teleport bugs and you have to walk the rest of the way to lane like a loser, you still get to be far more active than the other roles. Tagging along with your jungle whenever they do anything pretty much always results in a fight. So if you can choose when and where to do this, you end up just naturally taking objectives. And I suppose that's how it works for a midfield. You play both offense and defense. You're not necessarily the key in either of them, but you still have this foundational role that other players, have to work around. They need you to do your job as well as you need them to do theirs. It's the type of position where your strength ends up getting multiplied through other people. By doing your job well, it makes it so other people are able to do their jobs more comfortably, and then they've got more room to do this or that. Now, sometimes you have to be on your feet more, moving around the map, trying to adapt to what your team does, so you have to be aware, you've got to keep an eye out, and you have to adapt constantly. But because you have the empowered recall, it allows you to have more flexibility to try to be there for your team, even when you're off doing something on your own. I suppose the biggest issue is you can't control when you use it, but that also just makes it so that you're kind of forced to stay on the map longer, knowing that you have this ability to back whenever you need to. In a way, it makes resources and mana management far more important. It might be strange to say, but champion mastery might matter even more this season. So with that being said, how well do I know my own champion? And how did I trick you into watching an Azir tutorial? Auto attacks matter a lot with this guy, so much that his kit is designed around changing his auto attack range and allowing him to control where that zone is. But before we really get into abilities, let's talk about how to farm on this dude. You're gonna have to get used to his basic attacks, but there are some situations where you can use his abilities to clear the waves. You could try using all of your abilities where you shuffle back and forth through the wave, but that costs a lot of mana and puts his abilities on cooldown. So what I've been trying to do instead is use both charges of my W strategically, one for the melees and one for the casters. Even if it does take like 10 auto attacks to clear a wave. But it's kind of cool because as you're trying to push the wave, you can look for these opportunities to trade when your opponent walks up to try to use their abilities or auto attack the wave to last it. And it all revolves around your Sand Soldier, who you can summon anywhere at any time. That way anything inside of the range of your soldier can be attacked. It's kind of like a turret, but smaller without being automatic. But the only problem is they stay wherever you put them, so as you move around, they stay still. But that's where his other abilities come in, allowing him to puppeteer his summons. His first ability, Q, Conquering Sands, allows him to adjust his soldiers to a new position anywhere within his range. Where his third ability, his E, Shifting Sands, allows him to dash to a location to reposition himself, and in that way when you combine all of your abilities together you get the Shurima Shuffle. But Azir isn't built like a gun, it's not all or nothing. So if you don't want a Shurima Suicide, what other options do you have? If your combo needs a little bit of extra range, you can E forward, summon a soldier on top of the target you're aiming for, Q into them so most of the soldiers are on top, and then you get to auto attack them again. But I know it all too well, anybody who picks up Azir is going to want to try to do the fancy plays and try to shuffle them under tower, so if you're going to do that, just make sure you clear out the melees before anything. That way, once everything is set up and you shuffle them under your tower, they actually take aggro. And to do the actual combo, you E to a soldier to reposition yourself, and then while you're still moving, you Q to get behind them, and then you ult them back into your tower. Being able to put yourself in a position where you're able to use this cheeky little trick is probably enough to get you to gold. And I really do hope that more people pick up this character. even if it'll feel like most of what you're doing is just farming minions with your auto attacks. But out of everything that I've learned from playing this champion, it's that mages auto attack too. If you free up your abilities by last hitting with your auto attacks, you can start trading with your opponent, which will allow you to win the lane. Although sometimes the fights end up being super scrappy, but I just wish you the best of luck if you try it. So once you get used to the way that this character feels and moves around, it just is so satisfying to try to go for something knowing that you have the option to. But these fights don't just pop up out of nowhere. You've got to actually open yourself up to the opportunity to be put in these situations where you have to be able to do something. And by that, like, even if I'm going 0-0-0 in lane and just farming the whole time, I'm still looking for these opportunities to play off my team, knowing that I'm not going to be winning the 1v1, I might as well try to take a 2v2. It doesn't really make sense, but the logic is sound. But then again, it's not always going to be right there for you to go and take the fight. Sometimes you have to look for these risky opportunities where you roam all the way up top lane, blow your abilities, and get an extra bit of gold. And I guess that's another skill that you have to have in mid lane, keeping an eye on your map and knowing when one of your laners are going for a fight or your jungler, and then just trying to rotate over to them once you have your lane pushed. Now if it's for like a dragon or a baron or something, you can just give up the minions. But that's only if you're not playing it right, because for the most part, you can try to cycle between pushing out your lane and then rotating downriver, and it's just an endless cycle. Push out lanes, check the river, push out your lane, check the river, and then eventually you go to Baron. But it's not like you ever need to start the Baron fight, so why do you need to start the fight against the enemy team? Instead, look for your team's cooldowns, watch for their CC, and at that point, that's when you go in. And that's probably how I got plat, just playing off my team. Once Nami uses her ultimate and knocks up part of them, they can't react. They don't have any options when they're stunned. So that's when I go in and shuffle them. But then again, it goes down to his basic abilities as well. You can just wait for Nami to bubble and then auto attack. And really, these are just the basics, the standard fundamentals that I'm using on my climb. But it's working so far, so I figured I would just kind of document it. Let you guys know what's going on in our journey to the center of the universe through Summoner's Rift. Although it's kind of funny to say it that way, because it's like I'm trying to climb Mount Everest, but I still haven't made it to the base camp yet.